Hello and welcome to today's edition of Daf. I'm doing from the Steinsaltz Chullin Daf, and I'm going to dive straight in. So I'm going through the last paragraph of the last Daf because it fits in the middle. The Gemara asks, which is the Himsa, which is the Bar Himsa? So I explained previously that Himsa means literally fat. Specifically the fat on the bow-shaped section of the Abba Muslim. In Akkadian, Himsa means the fat covering the innards. In Mandiak, Himsa means belly. And the Aruch translates words here. And Bar Himsa is the son of the fat, whatever. I'm going to explain what that meant. So the Gemara suggests, common here proof from which Rav Naaman says with regard to one of the fats of the Abba Muslim, can it be that they learn as Eretz eat it, considering its permissible consumption? And to us, the Babylonia, not only is it forbidden, but it does not see it a perforation. It cannot be that this fat is forbidden by Torah law if they permit it for consumption. Even though we are stringent with regard to its consumption, we may still maintain that it effectively seals a perforation. The Gemara explains, the Abba Muslim is shaped like a bow. The side facing outward is curved like the bow itself, while the side facing inward is flat and straight like the bowstring. With regard to the fat that is on the bow, the footnote here, the kashta the fat on the bow of the Abba Muslim is prohibited for consumption by Torah law. The fat on the bowstring is not eaten by those who follow the Babylonian custom in accordance with the first attribution of the opinion in the Gemara. The Mishnah some hold that the fat on the bowstring is prohibited universally, so the Babylonian custom is common upon all Jews, Rashi, since it's a custom among all communities today. If the Abba Muslim is perforated, the fat on the bow does not effectively seal it. All hold that the fat on the bowstring effectively seals the perforation and is permitted even for consumption according to Torah law. According to the Rambam Sefer Kedusha Hilchot Makot Surat 7:6 and the Hilchot Shechita 6:10, Yodei 48:1, 64:14, and one agrees, even as you saw that it's forbidden for consumption. Those Babylonians follow Rabbi Shmuel's opinion that any fat that has a membrane that can be easily peeled is prohibited for consumption. Rather than as Yisrael follows Rabbi Akiva's opinion that such a fat is permitted unless it is spread out loosely as well. While most of the fat on the bow is loose and therefore forbidden, even according to Rabbi Akiva's opinion, the fat on the bowstring is not Sibashi. And there's a little diagram here in the Gemara. Okay. This fat then is the Himsa, which does not seal a perforation according to Rabbi Naaman. When they disagree, it's in regard to the fat that on the bowstring. The residents of Eretz Yisrael permit it for consumption, while those in Babylonia prohibit it. According to Rabbi Naaman, the residents of Babylonia should concede that it is nevertheless an effective seal. This then is the Bar Himsa. There are those who say that with regard to fat that is on the bowstring, everyone agrees that it's permitted. This then is the Bar Himsa. When they disagree, it's with regard to the fat that is on the bow. In this version of the disagreement, the residents of Eretz Yisrael permit even the fat on the bow for consumption. According to the residents of Babylonia, it is both forbidden for consumption and does not form an effective seal. Rashi notes that this language does not form Rabbi Naaman's statement, but even if the two populations differ as to whether a certain fat is made for consumption, all must agree that it forms an effective seal. Tosfot explained that Rabbi Naaman's statement need not be interpreted as a rhetorical question was previously understood, but merely as a statement noting that the residents of Eretz Yisrael disagree with regard to both whether it is permitted to consume the fat and whether it is an effective seal. See the Selah, who attempts to prove that the first version of the disagreement is correct. The residents of Eretz Yisrael permitted, but the residents of Babylonia prohibited. This then is the Himsa. The Gemara adds, when it was stated that only the residents of Eretz Yisrael permit the fat on the bowstring for consumption, this means that they would eat it in a manner like that which Rabbi Avia says that Rabbi Ami said. One takes a handful of the fat that lies above the fat on the bowstring, since this is the fat prohibited by the verse, that all the fat that is upon the innards, Leviticus 3:3, and the rest is buried for consumption. And so Rabbi Yanai, also a resident of Eretz Yisrael, in the name of a certain elder, one takes a handful of Avia, said, I was standing before Rabbi Ami. The people who took a handful of the fat on the bowstring and gave him the remaining fat, and he ate from it. The Gemara relates, the attendant of Rabbi Hanina was standing before Rabbi Hanina, a resident of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Hanina said to him, take up a handful from that fat on the bowstring and give me the rest, so that I will eat from it. Rabbi Hanina saw that the attendant was hesitating, so he said to him, you are a Babylonian, and usually consider all this fat forbidden. If so, cut up all the fat and throw it away. The mission states that if the small intestines are perforated, the animal is a terefa. With regard to it, it is taught and applied to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, if the intestines were perforated, but mucus seals the perforated intestines. If the intestines were perforated and the perforation was covered with their fat, the animal is kosher. In contrast, mucus does not form a effective seal, even if it cannot be removed without great difficulty. In accordance with the Gemara here, Rambam Sefer Kedusha, Shechita 6:14, Shechita Yodeh 46:1. The animal is kosher. The Gemara asks, what is this mucus? Rav Kahana said, it is the mucus of the intestine that comes out under pressure when one scrapes it with a knife. The Gemara relates, the colleagues of Rabbi Abba learned a tradition from Rabbi Abba. And who are they? The phrase colleagues of Rabbi Abba is the phrase of Rabbi Zera. Some say that the colleagues of Rabbi Zera learned it from Rabbi Zera. And who are they? Rabbi Abba. This is the tradition. Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, said that this is what Rabbi Chia bar Abba said that Rabbi Yochanan said. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to a terefa. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to the halacha of mourning. More elaborates. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to a terefa. This is the halacha as we stated above. The mucus forms an effective seal in the intestines. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to mourning. What is this halacha? As we learned in a Braita, if one learns of the death of an immediate relative after other relatives have already begun their period of mourning, the halacha is as follows. During the entire 3 days of mourning, if the mourner comes to the house of mourning from a nearby place, he counts his days of mourning with the other mourners and completes his mourning with them. Imohen, with the other mourners. If one relative joins the rest after the period of mourning has started, and he travels a distance of 1 day's journey or less, he counts days of mourning together with them. The same applies even if he arrived on the 7th day, according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. But if the other relatives have completed their period of mourning when he arrives, or if the head of the household is not present, he counts a period of 7 and 38 on his own. And that's the Rambam Sefer Shoftim, Yochot Eival 7:4, Shulchan Yodeh 375:8. The Braita continues. If he came from a distant place, he counts 7 days on his own from the time that he was informed of the death. From this time point forward, i.e. after the first 3 days, even if he comes from a nearby place, he counts 7 days on his own. Which says even on the 7th day, if he comes from a nearby place, he counts and completes his mourning with the other mourners. Someone whose name was not given said, "May I merit to go up to Eretz Yisrael and learn halacha from the mouth of his master." When he went up from Babylon to Eretz Yisrael, he found Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, and said to him, "Is it true that the master said that halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to terefa?" But Abba said to him, "This is not true." Well, I said just the opposite, that the halacha is not in accordance with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and even if mucus seals the perforation of the intestine, the animal is a terefa. The honest man asked Rabbi Abba again, "What about the other ruling reporting your name, that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to mourning? Is this accurate?" Rabbi Abba said to him, "There are conflicting opinions with regard to this matter. As it was stated that Rabbi Hista says that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, and so does Rabbi Yochanan that is the halacha. But Rabbi Naaman says this is not the halacha." The Gemara concludes, and the halacha is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to terefa, and the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to mourning, in accordance with the statement of Shmuel, who says that the halacha is in accordance with the statement of the more lenient authority in matters relating to mourning. Rav Shimi Bar Here says, one may compare perforations in the intestine. If one is unsure whether perforation in the intestines occurred before or after slaughter, one may make a new perforation adjacent to the others and compare it to their appearance. If they seem similar, the animal is kosher. If they are not similar, but the old perforations have been handled, one may handle the new perforation as well. If after handling the new perforation appears similar to the old, the animal is kosher. The memorize, then one may no longer rely on such comparisons, since there is no longer a received tradition as to how to perform them. And such is the custom nowadays. From the Sefer Kedusha of Shechita 614, Shechadot Yodeh 6551. If one is unsure whether a perforation occurred before or after slaughter, one may make an additional perforation compared to two. If their appearance is similar, one may conclude that the perforation occurred after slaughter and the animal is kosher. There were certain perforated intestines that came before Rav. Rav made other perforations and compared them, but they were not similar. Rav Moshiach, his son, came and rubbed the new perforations, and they were similar. Rav Moshiach therefore deemed the animal kosher. Rav said to him, "From where did you know to do this?" Rav Moshiach said to him, "I reasoned how many hands rubbed these earlier preparations before they came to the master. Therefore I thought that if I handled the new ones, perhaps they would look similar." Rav said to him, "My son is as wise in matter to Reva as Rabbi Yochanan." Hakim bereaved to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was considered especially knowledgeable in the matter of Treifot, on account of the Elton 95b, from Babylonia. Shmuel sent him in queries on Treifot involving so many animals, and 13 camels were required to transport them all. Rabbi Yochanan was also considered exceptionally wise in general, says Rashi. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar both say, one may compare preparation in the lung to determine whether they occurred after slaughter. The Kefin Bereil. If the lung is found to be perforated, but it may be plausibly claimed that the perforation occurred after slaughter, the animal is kosher. If there is no clear reason that the perforation might occur after slaughter, but it may have in theory, one may make another perforation and compare the two. If the perforation appears similar, the animal is kosher. The first perforation was presumably made after slaughter as well. When the two perforations are not similar, the animal is a terefa. One may not compare the perforation in a small animal to one in a large animal. Some say that one may not compare between two animals, and even in the same animal may not compare perforations between a caudal lobe and a smaller lobe. In accordance with Rashi's second opinion interpretation of the Gemara, the Ramah writes that one may no longer rely on such comparisons, since there is no longer a received tradition as to how to perform them, and such is the custom nowadays. Rambam Sefer Kedusha Shechita 7:12-13 Shechor Yodeh 36:5. We said this only when the two preparations are on the same side of the load, but one may not compare preparations from one side to the other side. The Gemara rules, and the halacha is one may compare even from one side to the other side, and even from a small animal to another small animal, or from a large animal to a large animal, according to an alternative interpretation by Rashi. The word small refers to a specific lobe of the lungs. The word large refers to one of the caudal lobes, which are larger. This is also the interpretation of Rabbi Gershom or Hagolah. But not from a large animal to a small animal, not from a small animal to a large animal. Similarly, Rabbi and Rabbi both say one may compare severed or perforated areas in the windpipe. If the windpipe was severed or missing a piece, but this may have occurred after slaughter, and one cannot attribute it to the slaughtering knife itself, one may sever it elsewhere and compare the two breaks. If they appear similar, the animal is kosher. If not, it is prohibited for consumption. One may not compare perforation between large and small segments of the windpipe. Maybe the conclusion of the Gemara. According to the Gemara, there is no received tradition as to how to perform such comparisons, and one must deem the animal a terefa in any event. The Rambam Sefer Kedusha Shechita 3:25 Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 34:9. Papa said, we said this only when the two areas are in the same segment of the windpipe, but one may not compare from one segment to another segment. The Gemara rules. And halacha is, one may even compare from one segment to another segment, and from one sub-segment, i.e. thin segment, between the main segment to another sub-segment, but not from a segment to a sub-segment, and not from a sub-segment to a segment. So what we're talking about. Chulya leva chulya. According to Rashi, a segment is a thick forward section of each tracheal ring. So there is a little picture here of that. While a subsegment is the thin back section of each ring, which in the rear is a strip of flesh rather than a cartilage. Elsewhere, Rashi is cited as interpreting the word segment to mean the tracheal ring itself, while a subsegment is the flesh in between each ring. Think about paradox. Interesting. Rabbeinu Yoshim or Agoda writes that in general, a segment is a large ring, while a subsegment is a small ring. The Rambam explains similarly that the entire windpipe is made up of segments, and in between larger segments are smaller oxalate segments. Zeiri says, if the rectum was perforated, so there's a picture here of the back of a cow. So if you have the Gemara, you can have a look at the picture. It's on page 277. The rectum is the wide terminal section of the digestive system ending in the anus. Enveloped by fat, it passes between the hips and through the gap in the pelvis, which protects it from the sides. Consequently, the hips can be said to support it. Toward the rear, the rectum is held in place next to the anus by connective tissue, and this is likely the place that is attached, that is mentioned in the Gemara. The animal is kosher since the hips hold it up and seal the perforation. And how much of the rectum does it supply? The rectum is elongated and passes from the body cavity above the animal's thighs to the anus. It is not immediately clear how much of it is supported by the hips and how small a perforation must be in order to be effectively sealed. And the rectum does it supply? Rabbi Lai says, Rabbi Yochanan, says, if the rectum is perforated in the place where it is attached to the hips, even perforated in its majority, the animal is kosher. If the perforation was not in the place attached to the hips, the animal is a terefa. If it was perforated in any amount, the sages said this halacha before Rav in the name of Rav Naaman. Rav said to them, Have I not told you not to hang on Rav Naaman empty bottles? Not to falsely attribute statements to him. So said Rav Naaman with regard to the place that the rectum is attached to the hips, even if it's all removed. If any part of the rectum is perforated, the animal is a terefa, just with any other part of the entrails. This applies only when it's perforated through the abdominal cavity. If it's perforated in the place that is attached between the hips, the animal is kosher. If the entire area attached between the hips is removed, the animal is kosher as long as 4 fingertips remain in a bull, or 2 in a sheep, or 1 in a lamb or kid. That's from the Okeach. Some of the animal is terefa if any part of the main area was perforated, or some deem it kosher as long as the majority of the width of the 4 fingertips remain. And that's in the Rambam Sefer Kedusha Choshechita 6:16, Yochanoch Yodea 46:5, and see the Bar Hativ there. Even if the whole piece of the rectum is missing in the place it is attached, the animal is kosher. As long as the section large enough to grip remains intact further inside the body. Consequently, the statement attributed to Zeiri that if the rectum is perforated, the animal is kosher is imprecise. The animal is kosher even if the rectum is almost entirely removed in the Rashba. According to Rabbeinu Yonah, the statement of Rav Naaman modified Rabbi Yochanan's statement rather than contradicted. According to the last explanation, it emerges that there are 3 sections of the rectum, each of which have a different halachic status. The first is the place that is not attached, which turns the animal terefa if perforated in the amount. The second is the place that is attached, which can be completely removed without consequence, as long as enough remains for a hand to grip. The third is that remaining area which can be perforated in its majority, and the animal will remain kosher to wash. According to the Rashba, the remaining area must be completely intact. See also the Ram commentary on the Rif. The animal is kosher, and this is the halacha. Only where it is sufficient space remains of it for a hand to grip. The Gemara asks, and how much is considered sufficient to grip? Abai said the width of a finger. This measure is sufficient even in the case of a large bull. According to Rav Hagon, this phrase should be translated to the width of the breadth of a bull. The width of a finger of a bull interpreted this as 4 human finger hand breadths. He adds that in a sheep, the measure is 2 finger breadths, and in a kid or lamb, it is 1 finger breadth. The Mishnah states that if the internal rumen was perforated, or most of the external rumen was torn, the animal is to. With regard to this, Rabbi Yehuda says, the Rav says, Natan Bashir, chief butcher of Tzipori, testified before Rabbi Yehuda Nasi in the name of Rabbi Natan, which is the internal rumen. It is the sisum. Sisum is the Sani Divi. And there's a picture here where it positions the cow. 2 different interpretations given by Rashi. It's related by Rashi and others. Understand this phrase as referring to the sisum. The sisum is not part of the rumen, but rather a pouch located between the small and large intestine in which food can accumulate. According to this understanding, the sisum is called the internal rumen because it resembles the rumen and is found toward the end of the digestive tract. See Yavin, Shemua, and Sichat Chullin. Rashi offers an additional explanation. The term Sanyan Divi refers to a set of 2 pouches toward the rear of the rumen. These pouches can be filled with partially digested food, and butchers perforate them in order to remove it. Rashi offers 2 possible etymologies of the term Sanya Divi. According to both, the word Sanya derives from the root Sin Nun Aleph, which means to hate or be disgusted. One interpretation holds that the word Divi refers to wolves, similar to the Hebrew Zev. The term therefore denotes an organ so disgusting that even wolves avoid it. According to the other, the word Divi refers to oozing, similar to the Hebrew Zav. The term therefore denotes an organ full of repulsive ooze. And so said about Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, it is the system. Rabbi Shmuel said it is the opening, it's tumka of the rumen. It's tumka. This word, which is found in Syriac as well, apparently derives from the Greek samachos, meaning a narrow opening of an organ such as the rumen. The Greek word has passed into several languages to know the entire digestive system or the stomach, specifically as in English. Rashi says, Rabbi Yochanan says, there is a narrow place in the rumen, and this is the internal rumen. All the rest is external rumen. But I do not know which area is the narrow place. Naman by Yitzchak said, the rumen has fallen in a pit. Since it is unknown which area is considered the narrow place, the perforation is in any part of the rumen when the animal to refer. Rav Abba says that Rav Ashi says, the interrumen extends from the narrow place where the rumen begins to narrow as it approaches the gullet, and down toward the gullet when the animal is suspended by its legs. Rabbi Yaakov Namani says, in the name of Shmuel, the internal rumen is a place in the rumen that has no wall. The reference here may be to the dorsal part of the rumen where the palpellae are sparser. If this explanation is correct, Shmuel would disagree with the opinion cited in the Gemara later that the internal rumen is the area exposed by the butcher when slaughtering the animal, as the area that is thereby exposed is not dorsal rumen, i.e., downing projections on the inside of the rumen. Rabbi Avina says, in the name of Genavia, who said in the name of the Hambat and the gullet adjacent to the rumen, this is the internal rumen. In the west, Rabbi Eretz Yisrael, they said in the name of Rabbi Yossi Bar Hanina, the internal rumen is the internal rumen. If any part of the rumen was perforated in any amount, the animal is to refer in accordance with the stringent opinion of Rabbi Yossi Ben Hanina. as the disagreement is not resolved in the Gemara Sivashi. Some halakha authorities conclude from this that the safety of the animal is considered uncertain. From the Sefer Kedusha Chachachita 6:11, 9:5 Shulchan Aruch 48:2, and see the Pesach Yeshuva and Aruch Shulchan there. And if so, which is the external rumen? The flesh that envelops the majority of the rumen is defined as the flesh that, if torn, will expose the rumen. The majority of the thickness of this flesh, or torn or removed, even the rumen is not itself exposed. The animal is away from the contrary opinion. Rabbi Yossi Bar Hanina, Rabbi Sefer Kedusha Cheshachita 6:11, 9:5 Shulchan Aruch 48:3. It is the flesh that envelops the majority of the rumen. The front of the rumen is covered by the ribs, but most of the rumen is protected by the flesh on the animal's belly, which extends down to the hips. This is the flesh that envelops the majority of the rumen referred to by the Gemara. Alternatively, the location of the internal rumen may be the portion in the gullet. As the section contains listed palpulae that resemble hair, while external rumen may be the denser palpulae resembling wool found further back at the Chullin illuminated, citing Tiferes Yaakov. On the underside of the animal, Rabbi Bar Huna says the internal rumen is the mafrata. The Gemara asks, what is the mafrata? Rav Avia said it is a plate that the bush exposes when he opens up the animal at the underside of the stomach. The Gemara recounts in Nahadeya, he practiced in accordance with the opinion of Baba Huna. Rav Ashi says that Amaima, one of the sages in Daria. What about all these other statements? That the internal rumen is another part of the rumen. Amaima said to him, they are all included in the definition of the rumen according to Rabbi Bar Huna. The system, the opening of the stomach, the place where no one all face the underside of the stomach, i.e. the mafrata. Rav Ashi replied, and what about the opinion of Rav Ashi? The Rav Ashi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the internal rumen is an unknown narrow area. Shouldn't the entire rumen be treated as the internal rumen? And the Imam said to him, Rahaba Avia already explained that this is the area extending from the narrow place into the gullet. This area is also included in the mafrata. Rav Ashi asked further, and what is the opinion of Rabbi Avina? That the internal rumen is a handbreadth near the gullet, and of the residents of the west Eretz Yisrael, that is the entire rumen. Miriam said to him, these opinions certainly disagree with that of Rabbi Bar Huna, but we do not follow them. The Mishnah states, Rabbi Yehuda says, with regard to a tear in the internal rumen for a large animal, a tear of 100 renders it a terefa. Well, for a small animal, it's a terefa only if most of it was torn. Rabbi Binyamin Bar Yafet says that Rabbi Elazar says the word large is not referring literally to a large animal. If the hammer of the flesh enveloping the rumen was torn, the animal is a terefa. If most of it was torn, even if the animal is so small that it constitutes less than a handbreadth, the animal is a terefa, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and the statement of Rabbi Binyamin Bar Yafet. And whether the tear was lengthwise or widthwise. Rabbi Sefer Kedusha Cheshachita 9:5 Shulchan Aruch 48:3 on the Shach there. And the word small is not referring to a small animal, rather considering any animal large enough that its external rumen can be torn 100th, and this does not constitute most of it. This is what we learned. For a large animal, a tear of 100th renders it a terefa. Concerning any animal small enough that most of its internal rumen can be torn, and this does not constitute 100th, this is what we learned. For a small animal, it's a terefa only if most of it was torn. In other words, any external rumen torn either 100th or in its majority renders the animal a terefa. The Gemara asks, but if most of the external rumen is torn, but it does not constitute 100th, isn't it obvious that the animal is rendered a terefa? There is a principle that the majority of an entity is considered like all of it. The Gemara responds, no, it is necessary to teach that for a case where the tear would constitute a handbreadth with any amount more than a majority, i.e. the external rumen is slightly smaller than 200, lest you say that in such a case the animal is not a terefa until 100 of it is torn, nor teaches that is not so. Well, if the majority of the rumen is torn, the animal is a terefa even if it constitutes less than a handbreadth. The neighbor says that Rabbi Asi says, if a round hole was bored, if a round or elongated hole larger than a cellar coin, i.e. a hole that 3 day pits can fit through at once with difficulty, appeared in the flesh enveloping the rumen, this is because a hole this size can be stretched to the length of a handbreadth, according to the Panera of Yosef. Ram Nassim Kedusha Shechita 96 Shulchan Yodea 48:4, and see the tats there. Through the external rumen as large as a cellar coin, the animal is a terefa, since if the hole of such size will be stretched, it will reach the length of a handbreadth. But here Abba said, this matter was explained to me personally by the neighbor himself when we were on the ferry to Nahdea. If the hole is exactly as large as a cellar, the animal is kosher. If the size of the hole is greater than the cellar, it is a terefa. The Gemara asked, and how much is considered greater than the cellar? Rabbi Yosef said, for example, if 3 day pits covered in the remainder of the day can fit through the hole with difficulty, or if without being covered in any remains they can fit comfortably, this is considered a hole larger than a cellar. The Mishnah states the animal is a terefa if the oversum or the rectilium was perforated to the outside, i.e. to the abdominal cavity. With regard to this, the sage is taught, in the case of a needle that is found in the thickness of the reticulum, also point out here, if the one reticulum was perforated through, the animal is a terefa. If a thorn or needle was found embedded on the wall of the reticulum from the inside, but it does not project outside, one inspects the outside of that area. If one sees a drop of blood, one must presume that the wall was perforated and the animal is terefa. If not, the animal is kosher. This is a halacha with respect to the orientation of the needle, according to the Gemara here. Since the content of the stomach may push the needle out eye first, its orientation is no indication of whether it came from without or from within. According to the Rambam and the Rosh, there is no need to inspect the wall of the reticulum from the outside for blood. The Rambam writes that one may rely on this opinion after the fact, and in case of potential momentary loss. If the needle projects from both sides of the wall of the reticulum, one inspects the area surrounding it. If one finds a drop of blood adjacent to the needle, one must presume that the perforation occurred while the animal was still alive, making it a terefa. If not, one may presume that the perforation occurred after slaughter, and the animal is kosher, in accordance with the Brisa and the Gemara 51a. Nowadays, there is no received tradition with regard to proper inspection, and the animal is considered terefa, even though blood is found on the needle, and that's from the Rambam Sefer Kedusha 6:12, Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 48:7-8, and see the Kaf HaChaim that could show there. If it pierces the wall from only one side, the animal is kosher. The Brisa must refer to a needle protruding only from the inside. If the needle protrudes only from the outside, the animal is a terefa, since it presumably arrived thereby piercing the gullet or another part of the digestive system and traveling through the abdominal cavity. Talks about see 48b to 49a. If it pierced the wall from both sides, either the needle completely pierced the wall from the stomach, it is a terefa. But even if it protrudes from both sides, it is not always a terefa, and it may be inspected further. If a drop of congealed blood is found on the top of the needle. That's the end of the daf. Thank you for listening, and if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them, and I wish you all the best.